So how do we solve a rational equation? We need to find the least common denominator. This 4 is really just 4 over 1. So the LCD is then V times V minus 25. This guy is missing both a V and a V and a V minus 25. So this becomes 4 times V minus 25 over V times V minus 25. This second guy is missing, see, it's got a V. It's missing a V minus 25. So we'll give it a V minus 25 over V times V minus 25. And finally, this guy is just missing a V. So we have 200 V over V times V minus 25. Next step is we want to mush these guys together. Actually, let me do that over here. Mush these guys together so you get 4, let's see, this is really V squared, minus 25 times 4 times V, which is minus 100V, plus 200V minus 25 times 200, whatever that is. We'll deal with that in a minute. The left-hand side has the denominator V times V minus 25. The right-hand side stays 200V over V times V minus 25. Daunting, except for the fact that we realize that the numerator is just going to be a quadratic. So let's take a look at that. So we have 4V squared. Combining these two guys, we have 100V. And I'll rewrite the 200V on the right. And let me rewrite the minus 25 times 200. So minus 25 times 200 equals 200V. So we've whittled it down to a quadratic equation. Let's move this guy over to the left. We have minus 200V minus 200V. And we get that 4V squared minus 100V minus 25 times 200. Being a little bit lazy about this, but you'll see why I haven't dealt with it just yet in terms of multiplying it out. The right-hand side is 0. So why haven't I multiplied it out yet? Well, I noticed that there was a 4 here. And I noticed that 200 is divisible by 4. So I'd rather deal with 50 times 25 than 200 times 25. So let me divide everybody by 4. Or same difference, let me factor out the 4. So I get 4 times V squared minus 25V minus 25 times 50. Again, factoring out the 4 equals 0. And I'm now left with this guy. V squared minus 25V minus 25 times 50. So I need 25 times 50. I mean, there are a couple of ways you can do this. I like to think of numbers that I do know how to multiply and relate them to numbers that I don't. So in other words, 50 is related to 100. It's just half of it. So here's my thinking. 25 times 10, that's easy. It's just 250. 25 times 100, well, that'll just be 2,500. So 25 times 50 is just going to be half of that. So this is going to be half of that, which is 1250. So v squared minus 25v minus 1250 equals 0. Another way you could have done that is, you guys know 4 times 25 is 100. So 5 times 25 is 125. So 25 times 50 is 125, 1250. All right, we need to factor this. We need to find two numbers that multiply together to give me 1250, whose difference is minus 25. The answer is staring us in the face. Two numbers whose difference is 25 that multiply together to give us 1250. How about 50 and 25? We just saw that they multiply together to give us this, and that's their difference. All right, so we have v minus 50 times v plus 25 equals 0. So our two possibilities are that v could be 50 or v could be minus 25. To understand which is the correct solution, we need to go back to the original problem. V was the speed of the empty truck. So since v is a speed, negative 25 doesn't make sense in the physical world, which tells us that v equals 50 is our solution for v. But our original question was, how fast is it going with the loaded truck? And there we see that to get the speed of the loaded truck, we'll just take the 50 and subtract 25 to get 25 miles per hour. So to recap, what we did is, before diving into the problem, before worrying so much about finding some sort of formula, all we did was write down what we knew. And in this particular example, I just drew a picture to give me a sense of what information I had. The next thing that I did, and I think it would have been just as valid either to go from this path next or to go to the normal people talk equation and realize what you needed. The next step that I did was I said, okay, well, what information do I have? I've got information on distance, got information on speed. I wrote that down. I had something about time in there, so I wrote that down as well. Once I had that information, I realized that, oh, wow, actually that was exactly what I needed. I wrote down an equation, big picture first, normal people talk, English, French, Spanish, your favorite language, before jumping to an equation. Then I developed my equation, and then I used the tools that I have to solve this type of equation, namely a rational equation. To solve this, I found the least common denominator. And then going through the process, I came down to a quadratic equation. I made things simpler for myself by factoring the 4 out. And then after a little bit of thinking or a little bit of staring, I realized I actually knew some factors of 1250, whose difference was 25. That gave me two possible answers. One didn't make sense in the physical world, and I was finally left with v equals 50. And I used that to answer the question, namely, what's the speed of the loaded truck? 25 miles per hour. Just one word problem in many that you could possibly face. There's nothing specifically important about this word problem. You don't want to memorize it. But what is important is to understand the process you go through. The process is writing down what you know. The process is big picturing what you're told. The process is turning things into the language of mathematics. And the process, least important in my opinion in word problems, is then developing the solution from specific mathematical skills.